Hello and welcome to another session where we discuss immigration issues, immigration updates, and problems that people might be facing. Today, I've taken a very important, a very serious, a very sad, and a very emotive subject. Today, we are talking about domestic violence. What is domestic violence? What can be done in cases where domestic violence is perpetrated against a party that is on an immigration matter, not very strong, is worried, is coerced into things. So let's talk about all of that. There are some serious developments that have taken place in the recent months. Immigration rules have had lots of changes, and fortunately, for the first time, domestic violence has properly been recognized. Now, previous to these new rules coming into force, which are now, by the way, in force, previous to these, the simple rule used to be that if you are on a spouse visa, which means that you're married to a person present and settled in the UK, and if you are on a spouse visa and you have been subjected to domestic violence, then only you could apply for first some kind of a discretionary leave where you could get some protection, where you could have some shelter, you could have some money given to you in terms of benefits or in terms of support or emergency support, as we might want to call it. So previously, that was the only thing. And if you were able to prove domestic violence had been perpetrated against you, you would be able to get indefinite leave. Now, things have changed. Now, domestic violence has been recognized as something that affects everyone who is subjected to it, of course. And it is now not limited only to the spouse visas. So, first of all, let's look at it like that. If you are on a spouse visa, having married a British national or a person present and settled in the UK, and you have come on that spouse visa and you've been subjected to domestic violence, you can apply for indefinite leave if you are able to prove that. The other categories that this has now been extended to are the students, any skilled worker dependents who have come to the UK. So, for example, if you come as a dependent with your husband who is a student and you are now as a dependent in the UK, and the husband now says, well, you better listen to me or back you go. I will send you back, or controls your money or subjects you to domestic violence. You probably previously always thought, I am only a student dependent. What are my rights? I can't do anything. I can't go anywhere. And this is what the lawyers would also tell you, that unfortunately, the rules do not involve student dependents who can become eligible for that support from the state. But now that is not the case. So what the rules now say is that if you are a dependent, if you are subjected to domestic violence, you can self-declare that domestic violence, which means you can make an application to the Home Office and you will be granted 3 months leave on the basis that you have been subjected to domestic violence, and then the Home Office will consider further evidence. But that 3 months can be granted on the basis that you should be able to access support or shelters, or you should have somewhere safe to live, so that you are able to either switch into a different category or do something else with your life, or just go back if you wish to. So let's talk about it in a little bit of a brief detail. Now, first of all, if you are a student or a skilled worker dependent and you're in the country, you can make an application. You can get 3 months if you are granted 3 months. The purpose of those 3 months would be to give you an opportunity to either make a new application in a different category or for you to leave the country on your own terms. But it does not mean that you will be granted indefinite leave, because this is not going to happen in the case of skilled workers or students. So there are other categories such as the spouse visas, or depending on your circumstances, it could happen as well. I'm not going to go into all of those right now, but depending on your circumstances, you may be eligible to apply for indefinite leave as well. But like I said, it depends on your circumstances. It depends on a lot of other factors, and we can go into that as and when the need arises. Today, the idea was to simply talk to you about it. So if you're legally in the country, if you're a student or a skilled worker dependent, you can go down that route. If you're on a spouse visa, having married somebody present and settled in the UK, you can apply for indefinite leave on the basis of the domestic violence principles or the domestic violence concession that has always been there. I'm looking at the EU settlement cases as well. So if you are in the UK with pre-settled status, you can again seek this protection from the immigration rules, and you will be provided some sort of safety. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, which is the more important thing that I wanted to get to, is asylum. asylum is also an option which is available to you. Of course, depends on your circumstances. I've been dealing with asylum cases for more than 20 years now. Became somewhat of a specialist in these cases because there have been so many cases that I've dealt with in appeals and at the initial stages. I prepare people for their interviews, where I explain to them how it is that the Home Office look at them and what the Home Office is expecting from them in terms of answers. And as you might have, some of you might have gone through these interview processes, if you don't know what to do, you are completely lost. You can say, well, I'm just telling my story. What's wrong with that? I can just go to the Home Office and tell my story. That's not how it works. Because you need to make sure that your story, the factors in your story are relating to the evidence and relating to the law as it applies to asylum law. So if you do not have legal status in the country, that doesn't mean that you continue suffering domestic violence. You can claim asylum if you cannot go back to your own country because of that domestic violence. The situation I'm talking about is if you're illegal in the country, you're married to your partner, and they are saying, well, I can't do anything to you here, but let me take you back home and then see what I do to you. That is the kind of case where you can claim asylum in the UK. So again, depending on your circumstances, what you can do is go down the asylum route as well. If you have suffered domestic violence or you know somebody who is suffering domestic violence and they are suffering in silence, don't let them suffer. This is not right. This is not something which should be happening in today's day and age. And we should be able to help those people. And perhaps that is why some part of the immigration rules have recognized this point, and it is very important that we take it forward from here. I don't want to stop at that. There is one more point that I wish to talk about, which has never been available before and has now recently become available, and that is transnational abandonment. Now, let me read out the definition, which is in the Domestic Abuse Act 2021. It says, transnational marriage abandonment is a form of domestic abuse involving controlling and coercive behavior. It refers to the practice whereby the sponsor's partner or their family member abandons or strands the partner abroad, usually without financial resources and with the aim of preventing them from returning to the UK. It may involve children who are either abandoned with or separated from the abandoned partner. How many people can relate to that? Or you know somebody who can relate to that? I know how many consultations I do in a day where so many times in a week I get questions like this. Now, there was a recent case in 2023, which recognized this for the first time. And now the immigration rules have recognized this. So what is the scenario? You are a person who is, let's say, in Pakistan. You got married to somebody who is in the UK, is a British national. You come over as their spouse, and you start living in the UK. Now, you start suffering domestic violence at the hands of the husband or his family or his mother-in-law or whatever. The point is, if that has been happening to you and then the husband says, okay, you know what, let's go for a change. Let's go back to Pakistan and we'll see how the holidays go. You decide to go back. You've decided, okay, I'm going to meet my family. Maybe a change will do me good. You go there and the husband, Mr. Husband, then tells you, well, we are back in Pakistan. This is where you're staying. I am taking your passport. I'm taking your biometric card, and I'm going to inform the Home Office that you're no longer welcome in UK. And once I've gone back, you will have no way of coming back. This is what it used to be. That those people who were stuck back in their countries could not come back. This is called transnational abandonment, where you're taken back to your country, left there, your documents are taken away from you, or there are no means left for you to come back into the country. The law now says that if you're stuck in a country like Pakistan, for example, in this example, you can apply for indefinite leave to remain from your country where you are, on the basis that you have been subjected to domestic violence and this national marriage abandonment has taken place. There are a few other examples that I wanted to run by you. One category is exactly what I've just told you, where you're taken back and never brought back. Another category is when people get married to people outside their country and then never bring them over, and again subject them to domestic violence or all sorts of other issues. And the third category is, of course, who have come to the UK and then are abused. So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of these issues that come about in today's society that people are suffering from, and they don't know where to go. My purpose of this video today, of talking about this particular aspect of our society, is that there are sick brains and sick people in this world, in this society that we live in, and who think that they can get away with anything. It is not right, it is not fair, and it is not allowed. It is not legal anymore. So if there is somebody that you know, or you yourself have been subjected to this kind of domestic violence, then there are options. Please discuss with your lawyer, or if you want to talk to me, you know where to find me. Thank you very much for listening. Till next time.